and welcome to Stampscaping 101. We're going to use a few stamps from Nature Set number 6 here in a slightly different way. Not too different a way, but one in which we utilize in scenic stamping quite often. And that's using partial imagery, okay? I design all my stamps to be used in their entirety, but also for partials, okay? Now what I mean by that is you just simply don't stamp out the entire image, and it will give you a different look or take on that image. So for example, if I just stamp out this entire tree, we have a full tree, but I can stamp out from here up, and I get a medium tree, and I can even stamp kind of that top portion there and get a smaller tree, okay? Now, for any type of water-based image, I can take something like this Lakeside Cabin right here, okay? And there's, I don't know, it's hard to see in the rubber form here, but there's reflections down here of some trees and that cabin right here. But if I simply don't color this in right here, then we can depict something like a frozen lake or just this cabin sitting, you know, in a meadow or something like that with the trees in back of it. Or you can have a road leading to it or whatnot. So the only thing that really makes at least my imagery water-based is to have the reflection showing down here, okay? So I don't make those reflections separate, I make it a part of the design. And, you know, then you can choose to use it or not. Most of the times people use it, you know, to depict a lake, you know, what it's kind of designed for. But you can always just remove that portion of it just by simply not coloring it in, and you get a completely different usage out of it, right? So many different takes of the same image, okay? Okay, so I love working on this dark paper right here, and I'm still exploring it, trying to figure things out with it. But what I thought I would do is I thought I would do a nighttime type of scene, which is, you know, perfectly conducive for this dark cardstock here. This one happens to be an 81-pound Stardream Lapis Lazuli color, which there seems to have been a run on after working on so much of this. Everyone, I don't know, a few people at least seem to really like it. So, I don't know, this Stardream comes in different color schemes or color choices, and I don't know, this dark blue one really works really fantastic for some nighttime shots. Okay, so what I'm doing right here is I'm creating a horizon line, and I'm going to create this moonlit scene again. I say again because I've used this moon with this lapis lazuli before. And what I'm going to do is I'm creating this horizon line right here. And what I'm using is the Brilliance Moonlight White pigment ink. Okay, it's a faster drying pigment ink. You can probably use just a regular pigment ink if you don't have this one, because the Stardream does allow for the drying of just regular pigment ink. The Brilliance, of course, is just going to dry quite a bit faster. Okay, so what I'm doing here, maybe I need some extra ink on here, is I'm trying to create this kind of frozen terrain in here. It could be snow, it could be a frozen lake, you know, it's probably snow on a frozen lake or whatnot. And the moon is going to be kind of centralized up here, so I want that kind of lighting to be, you know, that kind of column of light here. I don't know, you can kind of work it up like this too, but I think going across like this is kind of conducive to the, I don't know, just this general feeling of, I don't know, the texturing that you would see on a lake, or that lighting that you would see on a surface like that. But like I said, you can kind of build it up too. So I'm kind of going off on these streaks like this because I think that, see, when I add this right down here and I kind of streak it across like this, it'll have a stronger kind of centralized lighting, and then it'll dissipate as it moves out to the edge there. That's why I'm kind of doing that. Normally, when I'm working with color, on white paper, I'm coming from the outside and working in like that and leaving the white in the middle, which represents that lighting. But in this case, we are adding light into dark. So you're kind of working it the opposite. You're kind of working it from the inside out. I like to have my lighting kind of, centralized or somewhat, or rule of thirds type of thing, with a darker kind of perimeter. I think the darker perimeter lends itself to a really nice kind of contained vignette type of feel. And it just frames the scenes off. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I have a couple of these wolves in here. It's going to be kind of a scene where it's, we're living with the wolves, living in the wild type of thing here. So I'm going to create somewhat of a spotlit kind of a platform down here. Platform just meaning, an area that they'll stand out against the background. Now, don't worry about getting this all completely smooth. Mine certainly isn't, and I'm not worried about that either. Sometimes I like a smooth application with some, cases, but, in the end, it really doesn't matter a whole lot. By the time I add all my other images over the top of it, it's not going to be an issue having kind of some texture, in there. Matter of fact, it might look even better that way. Okay, so what we have is kind of horizon line up there, and that's where I'll put my cabin, okay? And tree line up here. We'll put a moon up there. Maybe I'll stamp the moon right now just so I know where we're working. Or, let's see. Let me just try to take a general measurement here. Okay, I'll put that right about here. The moon will be right in here. Okay. And I tell you what. I mean, I should probably stamp that moon out. No, okay. I'll stamp the moon out right now. This is a moon from Nature Set number 9, but you can use any moon that you want. Or you can just take, a hole punch or something like that, and then mask that off and just make your own moon using white pigment ink, okay? You can use almost any sun image, especially from Stampscapes, because I make them a certain way, where if you, depends on what you color them. If you do it in blues and things like that, it tends to be a moon in cool colors or whatnot. And if you do a sun in, or the moon in warm tones, it looks like a sun. With something like this, where just as long as it doesn't have like that, texture on the moon, you can make this into a sun as well. You would just do, probably different color schemes around it. Okay, so I'm blotting off the edge like that a little bit, just to kind of blend this in a little bit more. And we'll stamp it about like so. You can stamp it a little bit higher, a little bit lower, it's not going to matter. And I'm stamping this in the Brilliance black too. Dye-based black probably would work, like a VersaFine or something like that, but I don't know, the Brilliance dries kind of fast, okay? So I don't know if it dries faster than dyes. And like I said, this paper tends to dry things just fine. Alright, so see that moon? See how it really fades out around the edge? I don't think I did that on my last scene, but the next scene I'll do that. That's the technique that you use on your sky figures if you want them to just inherently blend in kind of, faster rather than having blended in with additional inks. If you just kind of have it blend in, to begin with, by having the edge of it lighter, it just kind of expedites the entire process. And it's just a simple little touch of blotting off some ink around the edge. Okay. All right, so there's my moon. Let's give it a nice bright. Wow. Here, this is my Miaosun white acrylic pen. I went into some black pigment ink. I think it was the black Brilliance with it ink, and it looks like I took in some ink from the surface and it went into my barrel here. So let's see if I didn't kind of pollute it. And it's still kind of drawing a little bit black. Just kind of, these pens are really great. So you just scribble it off like this. Let me show you what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of scribbling it off and getting it to feed, and it just gets flowing easy again. Now, I've been recommending this because everyone asks me, hey, what pen are you using? And I noticed these Miaosun brand ones are sold out on Amazon, but I've looked at other brands out there. I just got this one because of the reviews, and I don't know, it was cheap, so I just got them, and they work fine for me. But the barrel and cap of this pen look exactly like this exact same barrel and cap from these other brands that are out there as well, which leads me to believe it's the same thing. You know, all these things are coming out of the same factory in China somewhere, you know what I mean, something like that. And it's either a bunch of different brand companies are buying the same pen and just rebranding it, or that company that makes these is just selling it under a different bunch of different brand names. And that's how you kind of get market share. Just sell the same thing under a different name, and so people think, oh, should I get this brand or should I get this brand? You know what I mean? You're buying it from the same place basically. Okay, so I need a little bit of a larger mask here. Torn paper towel. Let's bring this moonlight into some other clouds around it, okay? So let's just kind of mask it off like so, okay? You can put it wherever you want, you know what I mean? I'm just kind of roughly going along with that moon there. So what I'll do is I'll add some this white pigment ink around in here, okay? I like to add a little bit more pigment ink where, close to the light source, right? It's going to be a little bit brighter. Where the moon is, if it's right next to a light, it's, probably going to be a little bit lighter there. And then as I move up, away from it, maybe what I'll do is I'll just tap a little bit less, okay? Now, if you've never done this before, and even if you've watched this, chances are when you do your first kind of addition of this pigment ink, you're going to be using way too much. It's going to be sloppy wet, and it's going to be blob, 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 blob. So you really have to take off a lot of it. I happen to know my pigment ink pad here pretty well, and I just know it's not so juicy, because it's an older pad, and even when I re-ink my pad, I don't ink it up so much where it's going to be super wet like a brand new pad. I kind of leave it in a little bit more of the kind of the medium to dry range, okay? All right. So see, as I'm doing this, look at this. Look at how many times I've tapped that. And there it is right there. It's just so faint, right? Now I could take up more ink, I'm pressing this into my pad more here, okay? And, I'm soaking up more ink. But if I do that, I have a pretty good feel for it, and I'm going to tap it lighter, okay? Imagine it like you're applying powder to something, or makeup or something like that, okay? You want to blend it, and you want to apply just a nice light coating of it, okay? And then you just kind of taper it off. Okay, see, so I'm using the drier version of it as I move away from that light source like that, okay? Now see, I'm just constantly moving my mask around. You can go like that or like that. It doesn't have to be set, okay? You can just kind of keep moving it. I think I was a little bit more set when I first started doing this, but I'm starting to learn just to kind of move my paper towel around like this as I'm doing this. And I think it looks maybe a little bit more organic of a form. It feels like, those clouds are moving a little bit more by doing this. Okay, so see this as I keep, I can keep moving my towel, my mask, like that. Okay, See that? Okay, now if you haven't seen this done before, when you have a light source in your scene like this, okay? See the billows of the cloud are facing upwards like that, right? Now if you have a light source like that, what I like to do is as I turn this upside down, like that, I can have my clouds bottom lit that are above the moon, okay? So you just go like this, and then the clouds are going down. I don't constantly have it going up like that, okay? Like this and this and this. I think that it turns out looking just fine when people do that, but this kind of, reiterates lighting, okay? Light direction, I should say, okay? So I'll show you what this looks like real fast here. Just doing one cloud like this, okay? Alright, so see that right there? That one right there is now bottom lit, okay? So you have it going like this from the bottom, flip it around like this, and you have the clouds going down like that, and have them bottom lit. So again, it just kind of reiterates that idea of light direction, source of light, reflected light type of thing. And it's just so easy to do. And one of the things about using a very dry applicator like this, it is really hard to make a mistake when you're doing like this, okay? People say, oh my gosh, you make it look so easy. Well, use an easy technique. Don't use a hard one. The hardest types of marks that require a lot of experience are things like watercolor paintings, or let's say like Chinese calligraphy, or just general calligraphy, where you better really know what you're doing to get that one stroke down, and when you do it, that is it, okay? This is like the opposite of that. I can go like this, okay? And look at this. I mean, I did not, there's no harsh marks like that. But it's when someone tries to really take things fast and it's a sloppy, thick amount of ink on there, it becomes a lot more precarious, believe me. But when you have to do like 20, 30 taps to make that faint little thing like that, watch this. I mean, there's just that tiny little cloud like that. It is really impossible to make a mistake. It's always when someone tries to expedite the process, though. And I get it, though, because it's the same for me. Anytime I get a new ink pad like that, I tend to, just ink it up and go, and it's like, I gotta compensate, I gotta kind of really blot it off before I take it on there. And then what I do is I just kind of lightly dab it, then blot it off, and then go on. And then it just becomes just this super easy, user-friendly. I'm into user-friendly, believe me. I'm not into hard techniques. It only becomes hard if someone makes it hard. But I do get it, though, because people aren't used to using, really kind of faint incarnations of any type of media that they're working with. If you're working with a navy blue marker, when you draw with it, you expect a navy blue mark with it. If you're stamping something in, Galaxy Gold, you're not expecting to get kind of a 5% version of Galaxy Gold, you know what I mean? By blotting it off a couple times or wiping some of it off and getting a duller impression. But this is kind of using, like we're going to be using partials with our stamps. You can use partials with any type of media that you have, especially like dye-based inks or in this case, pigment inks. You can use drier versions of any type of wet media to get a faint, lighter, and duller version of any type of media. And it's something that I would always recommend because you can really, really expand on any type of color or media that you have by getting lighter versions just by using a drier version of it. You can, I don't know, let's say you have 20 different colors or something like that of pads, well, of dye-based or pigment ink pads, and if we're utilizing them for coloring, you can have I don't know, 2,000, the equivalent of 2,000 colors or something like that. You're just using those existing um, pads that you have just by using the lighter versions of it. Don't have a light, dark, a light blue, but you have a medium blue. Just use a lighter version, a drier version of that medium blue, and it becomes lighter. Okay. All right. So, anyways, we're kind of building that cloud structure in there, and isn't that fun like that? And if you notice, what I'm doing is I'm tapping this around that moon as well. So I'm kind of um, uh, making that moon kind of glow instead of it being kind of just, this harsh kind of, you know, paint pen drawing of him. I really lost a lot of my cloud with moon stamp in there. I don't know. I just used so much white ink in there, but it was a good guide to go off of, though. Okay, so adding a little bit more down here. I'm thinking about those wolves down here. Okay, running in the snow. It'd be kind of cool too. Is let's kind of like, I don't know. Let's add some of this wispy type of movement. I don't know if it'll read. You kind of have to have a little bit of a blob to kind of add a little wisp like this, but maybe this will kind of lend itself to looking a little bit more kind of like a windy type of day or night. Okay, so I'm kind of going like this. It's kind of giving me a little bit of a streak with some of these. Okay, so you can do all kinds of things with this technique right here. Well, I don't know about all kinds, but certain types of things you can do, and that's really fun. Okay, so this is the horizon line right here. I know that cabin um, stamp, and that cabin is going to be roughly right around here. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to lighten up some areas where that cabin impression is going to go, just so that it creates a little bit of a lighter background, and the cabin portion will stand out a little bit more. Okay. It's almost like when you're doing this, it's like almost like you're doing some painting, where, and if you're doing painting, brush strokes are good. You don't have to have everything so smooth. Smoothness and kind of having no lines and no texture whatsoever seems to become kind of like I don't know, some sort of, I don't know, indication of quality with things, but the last time I checked, I don't know, texture was part of art, and having everything smooth is kind of, I get it. Maybe it looks kind of more mechanical and less handmade, but we're making handmade stuff, so I don't know. I don't know, in my opinion, I think it's good to have, kind of oh, uh, an indication of that handmade type of quality. Okay, I need to put this over this right here. I have my tack and peel on one side that I'll be using my wools with. Okay, so Brilliance ink. Okay, so I'm not going to color in this bottom portion down here of the stamp. Okay, so that's roughly what it does. See, these areas down here are the reflections of the trees right here. So what I'll do, I inked up a little bit lower than that just so I can go in here with, just a paper towel, and I can fine tune. I don't want like a real firm, super distinct line down here. So you can kind of go like this a little bit, and you can soften up that edge where you've applied that black ink to, okay? And hopefully it kind of gives it a little bit less of a distinct line down here with that ink. Sometimes with black pigment ink you have to take off a little bit more than you think you need to. And I hope, by doing this like this down here and removing some of that ink, it might kind of give it a little bit more of a foggier feel, because you're kind of breaking up the imagery right here just a touch by having it stamp out lighter. So we're going back to the idea of using kind of a drier form of ink, but it's wet on here, but just in some of these areas, it's drier because I've wiped off some. Sometimes I don't wipe off enough, you know, it's a pretty thick ink that we're talking about, you know, using here, so. All right, let's see what this looks like. I do a lot of the background first. I find that it just, I don't know, it just seems to expedite the entire process. So I'm kind of not used to doing that. Like so much I don't know, toning and lighting. You know, when I'm working with white paper, cardstocks or whatever. Okay. So let's allow that ink to transfer on there. We might not need to. I don't know if it matters too much, but I don't know, just kind of holding this down a little bit longer. You don't have to squash it down and rock it. Don't rock it at all. Otherwise, you're going to smash the treetops and things like that. But okay, there we go. Yeah, and that looks a little bit kind of hazy, foggy right there. I don't know. Maybe I didn't take it off smoothly enough, but it'll and you know lend itself to that kind of you know, that foggy type of look to it. And you know we're gonna do some more on here too. Okay, so there's that. Let's add some trees. It looks a little bit kind of islandish, you know, like that out there. Let's go ahead and use some trees. I didn't know if I would use these ones or not, but let's do it. Okay. It's harder for me to kind of taper my impressions using thick, you know, pigment ink. It's easy to do it with dye ink, so I just kind of go like this. I wipe it off. And as I move up, I take off less ink, so there's a lot more gone down here. And as I go up here, I'm using less and less pressure on this so that I get kind of a transition of wet to dry down here. Okay, so let's give this a try here and see if I did okay on here. It's just because it's kind of thicker ink. I mean, if you don't get it exactly, it's fine. I certainly don't. Okay, so this is going to be. Why don't I wipe off a little bit of this tree right here? See, I'm hoping I'm not taking off all, you know, too much. Okay. All right, no, I don't need to mask anything off right here, hopefully. Let's see how it comes out. Sometimes I take off too much. Like I said, it's thick ink. With the dye-based inks, they're thinner, so it's easier to kind of really transition them. Okay. Yeah, that looks not bad. I could have had it a little bit darker down there, but see that right there? I think that looks pretty good. And I didn't hold it down as long, so, you know, the top of it was still pretty wet, but it gave me a lighter impression. Okay, so ink up again. Unless you want it super, super light, you know, you can go for another, you know, a second impression with it, but I would just re-ink it. Okay, so dabbing off down here. Maybe I'll try the dabbing motion right here. Always trying to, you know, refine my kind of techniques right here. Okay, and we'll go and back. I'll just go right down in here. If you need to cover your cabin, go ahead and cover it up like this, okay? If you're worried about going down in here, because you don't want to stamp, you know, these trees into that cabin, but you can stamp it over the solid trees, no problem. If you stamp it into the cabin rooftop is light, so, you know, the trees would show up in it, but over the top of solid, you know, darker trees, this impression should look like it's behind there. Okay, so there you go. Just like that. You can see that little cloud back there and whatnot, but I think we have a decent amount of depth in there. You can even go for another impression up here, and that would look like it's farther off in the distance. Alright, so we have our good foundation right here. It certainly looks like a chilly night right there. Some little illumination within that cabin right there would be great. Let's do that. Let's grab our pen here. I'm going to try something here. I was thinking, maybe I might not want such a firm crisp edge on that rooftop right there. So I'm going to do this, okay? I'm just going to mask that rooftop off like so. I haven't done this before with this image, so try new things all the time. I don't like doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. So if I am doing something, I like to try little tweaks, you know, with every little, I don't know, whatever technique or whatever. Let's try it with this cabin right here. All right. Let's see. I'm testing to see how much ink is on here. Okay, so there's my little rooftop like that. Okay, so I'm adding this down on that rooftop, and I'll try to. I think that looks pretty good. Here, I'll show you. I don't know. I don't want to lift everything up and show you kind of intermediate. So here, I'm going to take a little Q-tip right here. Oh, I've got a bunch of black on it. Okay. Now this is a little bit too hard. I usually recommend kind of blotting it off before you kind of take it on to your scene. So, and kind of fraying it a little bit just so you're using it. But I'll just use a light tapping motion right here. And what I'm doing is I'm going to try to add more of this on the top of the cabin to reiterate, you know, that strength of lighting, just like we did with the clouds, you know, closer to the light source. Okay, so anyways, I think that looks pretty good on that cabin. See that cabin top like that? Doesn't it look like it's capturing that lighting? See, and it's stronger as it moves down. I mean, you can make it all uniform, but having it a little bit darker right down there kind of creates that little transition of light on the rooftop. So I really like that. I haven't. I usually do a few little dots of white paint pen, which works good too. But I think that, I don't know, it looks a little bit more refined to me, I think. All right. Now, cabins, I mean, it's really fun putting this little lighting within the cabin. Just like a little framework in there. Like that. So it's like 9 little dots like that. I mean, you can color the whole thing out too. But okay, I'm just gonna put a few little dots down here, like it's kind of reflecting on some of the snow. And maybe on the top, maybe on the very top of the rooftop, I'll put a little bit more lighting up there, like so. Like that, just on that edge. Okay, and you can reiterate this too on some of the clouds, maybe, you know, closest to the moon. Okay, something like that. I don't know, maybe those dots stand out a little bit too much. But with scenic stamping and with what I'm doing, there's never a point of no return. You know, so you just, I'm picking up, I think it's like there's some black ink underneath this white here. I think I tapped some black ink on there with one of the recent scenes that I did. It's like still in there, and then I just reinked over the top of it. Okay, here we go. So, okay, so a little bit of refinement, kind of right where I started adding some of those little highlights that are quite light. I'll just kind of add a little bit of a white pigment ink around that, just to decrease the contrast between those dots and the background. Alright, and I can add a little bit more on the rooftop like that, or around the that window there. I can kind of make it glow a little bit too. What we're doing is, when we have this kind of glowing light, we're saying that there's a lot of, you know, things like moisture in the air. and it's just kind of breaking apart that reflected light as it reflects back at us. Okay, so you see that little kind of highlight up there? It just kind of increases your lighting in those given areas. And again, just use a very light touch, okay? Dry application, and it's really hard to make a mistake because it takes so many applications for it to even show. And remember, you're doing it kind of in a lighter touch. What people, like I said, what people do is they do that light touch and they can't see very much of it and they're just not used to it. So they press in, then they get blobs and they say it's a hard technique rather than just taking their time and building it up from like a, I don't know, imagine like a cloud is on a dial. The analogy I make is, instead of trying to make, whatever you're doing, a cloud, a 10 tap process, make it a 100 tap process or something like that, so you're expanding it out. And it's not like it takes a long time to do. It's pretty fast. All right, now one of the things that I really like about Stardream, I've been working on a lot of foils, but you just can't touch the black impressions or whatever you've laid down for a while. I'm talking days. But on the Stardream, see, I can just go over and I can kind of add this fog at the base of the, the cabin and whatnot. It's already set up enough, I'm not going to take my hand and rub it across there and really test it out, but I'm going over that, and it's, it's set up and it's dry enough, But that, I don't know. That's could be the Brilliance pads too. The Brilliance are fast drying inks, so pigment inks as far as the pigment inks go. All right. So, anyways, we have that now. What I like about working with pigment inks is it kind of gives me this. It feels like I'm working with paint or something. I mean, this kind of has this painterly feel to it in so many ways. I guess, because it's like we're working with, a thicker application of like a hand-applied medium here. So there's a lot of kind of gesture that goes into it, the more kind of hand work you do. The more you do that too, I don't know, I think it's like working on handwriting or something like that. The more you kind of do this type of thing and do this type of thing and, see there's little streaks like that, I think those look really good in there. You know what I mean? I think it adds to the, the overall look. So instead of kind of being afraid of getting, things like this, okay? I don't know. In some cases, you should really embrace kind of, streaks or things, you know what I mean? I didn't understand it. My illustration professor, one time I used, I forget what technique I used. Oh, I think I splatter painted something. Actually, let's do it on here. But he said, hey, anytime you're doing something, you really want to do it. You want to avoid kind of mechanical processes. You want everything that you do to kind of be more kind of hand done. So if I wanted like little dots of something, add them in yourself by hand. And I kind of, I got what he was talking about, but I still like to splatter paint. So I think we're going to do that on here. Okay, so these wolves are going in. I'm doing it in the black Brilliance, okay? It might be interesting sometime. I want to do some white wolves sometimes, too. Sometime. Like a white wolf in kind of the distance, or, kind of looking over a ridge or something like that. Okay, so we're going to do two of these. I could have put them on one block and did them in one impression. Maybe I should have done that. I originally was going to do that, but I forgot. Okay, so you have those wolves running down here. Look at how they look in the snow like that. This is so sticky, the tack and peel. Okay, let's see. Let me grab a smaller block. This tack and peel is really old, but when you wash this off, even though it looks a little gummed up, that tack and peel is, I don't know what that stuff is, but what when you wash it, rinse it off once in a while, when it becomes, less tacky, it becomes like brand new again, and it is so sticky, tacky. It doesn't leave any residue on your stamps. It's got, it's more like that color form type of cling type of feel to it. All right, so these are a smaller version of these two right down here, so I can put them, kind of higher up, and they'll look like they're farther off in the distance. Let's do that thing though. Let's kind of wipe off the bottom portions of them a little bit. Maybe they'll be kind of like I can probably even put like a little, little swoosh into their body like that. So it'll look like some kind of, I don't know, wind is kind of kicking up right there on their legs. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Okay, yeah. I think that looks pretty good there. Look at that. Where I've kind of wiped off some of their body. Look at that right there. Doesn't that look great? And it kind of goes along with the spirit of that, I don't know, all the movement in there. Okay, now, I don't have room. I was going to put some trees right here. I don't have too much room there, so this is where you just kind of, um, you just change course on the scene. I always say that, you should kind of go in the direction that a scene really wants to go into. So I was thinking about some additional trees, maybe right here, okay? And I'll just use the same pine row. Okay? Now, the lower you stamp something, the closer it is in kind of Western perspective, in terms of artwork. So these trees will just represent something closer visually. Yeah, I mean, maybe they should be bigger, but they'll, I think they'll look a little bit closer to us, just simply for the fact that they're lower. Okay? So let's go from right here. I need my tack and peel plastic cover. I can't find it. My desk is a mess here. I've been doing so much stamping and exploring of a Stardream paper and metallic inks and stuff like that. I just haven't gotten around to kind of tidying up my desk. I don't tidy up my desk after every project. I kind of do it about once a month and just kind of get everything kind of situated a little bit. For me, some people's desks are like immaculate, for their work area, and it looks really amazing too. Not against that, I just don't do it myself. Okay. Okay, so a little bit, we've created a little bit of a code. So see this, I stamp them darker, and then as you move on, this one's lighter. Well, this one's dark too, but, this is just lower, so it looks closer to us. All right, so anyways, that's a pretty good, demonstration of the utilization of lighter shades of things like that in your inks to both color and stamp out your imagery in. Okay, now, I tell you what, in here, let's add a little bit of this black. This is one of the things I often forget to do because I've just started doing this. I'll add a little bit of black into the scene, like this. We'll kind of reiterate that kind of vignette type of look. Okay. I'll try not to, eradicate all my clouds, with this black here, but see this right up here? I've kind of darkened it off like that up there, like that. It just kind of frames off the scene a little bit more, and the darker you take certain areas, okay, like this, the lighter areas are going to seem, okay? So see some areas in here where I didn't add the white of the cloud, I can kind of go in here. See this little area right here? Let's come into that a little bit. And these, the shadow areas of the clouds, I mean, you could take, and you can mask, that off like that, and hit that area in there if you wanted to. You'd kind of refine things slightly, but, I don't think it needs to be done, but it's something that you could do if you want to. All right, same thing down here on the floor, a couple corners. The wolf impression right there, down there, it's a little bit wet, so I'm not going to come right across in there, but I could tap it over it, where I'm not streaking into it and blurring the imagery. Kind of adding a little bit black right around here. Again, doing it in a very dry brush type of application. Not going on with a big blob of ink. And it kind of blends in my trees a little bit more. I'll kind of do it at the base of the tree. Maybe the moonlight is casting a shadow or something like that right in there. I think that splatter painting is going to look really good. For snow. I got a little blob of paint right there. Ink, black ink. I always call it paint. But, if you go over something and you don't like it, you can just hit it again with some white ink. Just go right back over that. As a matter of fact, I think I will. It's kind of fun just working with a couple different colors here too. Usually I'm working with so many different, range of colors, but just working in black and white can be fun because you can get all these different kind of incarnations of gray and whatnot. Grayscale, just using black. And then when you're starting off on a, inherently colored sheet of paper, then you're utilizing that color scheme for whatever effect you're going after. Okay, so down here, kind of add a little bit of black into it. We'll add a little bit of white right over the top and kind of transition those trees a little bit. Yeah, they're a little bit wet, but it's getting on my cotton ball here, but I don't know, it kind of blends in just fine. Like I said, I'm still utilizing some kind of a drier type of touch here. You can bring in some little cloudy forms like down here too. Okay, let's go in like this. Let's not have it so billowy, but you can kind of go like this and get a little bit of texture going in here. It just kind of reiterates the sky and kind of gives it this little misty type of effect, You see a little bit there. It's so light down here, I can't really see this too much. Alright, something like that. I don't know. And then you just go back in, just like up there. Once I get those things kind of laid out, then I go back in and I kind of blend them in. Alright, so that is that. And I'm kind of interested in, I kind of want to stamp a tree in here in white. Maybe not for this scene, but I think that would look pretty cool for your foreground like that. Okay, now I want a quote stamp. I think quote stamps look really great on this type of paper and this type of technique. Here's my spirit. I was thinking about my spirit is in the mountains. I thought that would kind of lend itself really wild. There's Spirit of the Wild, too. But my spirit in the mountains, though, it kind of captures my spirit, and there's this cabin right there, but it also has the wilds like that. So I was thinking that might be the perfect quote for this one. That's before I even started. Sometimes you can kind of work a scene around, one of the sentiments. Okay. Can't tell which is straight. I need one of those grid things, blocks like that. But I just wing things, you know what I mean? If it comes out a little bit crooked, so be it. I don't want it to come out really crooked, but okay, let me just test it right here. This is a real textured piece of paper. Maybe I should do it right here. And I'll stamp it in white. I'm going to do this before I do the splatter painting because this isn't so bold of a text right here, a font, that it can stand to stamp over the top of a bunch of real, super super texturized surface. Okay, this is from Scenic Sentiment sheet number 7 here. Okay, just getting my bearings here. Okay. I think it might be time to re-ink this. Okay, I think that would look pretty good right over here. I've kind of left some space there where it's a little bit lighter. I didn't plan this out right here, but I just knew it was probably going in somewhere around in this area. All right. And like I said, if it stamps out a little bit crooked, then I don't care. I don't know. It would be my preference that it stamps out kind of straight, but if it doesn't, then so be it. It's going up at slight angle, but I think that's close enough like that. But see that right there? Isn't it kind of fun to have that quote right there? And then if I was, doing this in a card, I'd probably follow up like something like, I don't know, one of these other ones. The Sound of Silence would have been good on this one too. Nature inspired, something like that. Or Spirit of the Wild would go great as an interior print impression for a card. Okay, let's have some kind of instant texture going in here. And let's go with the blade proof white. Alright, I always need to mix this up whenever I'm using it. I did put a fair amount of water in there at one time, maybe too much. But it does separate out pretty fast, even if you use it every day. I don't know, just kind of check it out and see if it needs to be kind of mixed in. You don't have to mix it, from the... You only have to mix, kind of reconstitute, the top layer of it. You don't need to, have the whole thing kind of in solution. You can just get a little bit going on the top portion of it. At this point in time, I've used quite a bit of this, though. Okay. I'd always recommend this for everyone in their repertoire. Not just using it for splatter painting, but anytime you need something that's really opaque, you can apply it with a paintbrush. Calligraphers use this medium all the time with light on dark types of lettering. You can put this in a dip pen, or you can certainly do brush work with it, or whatever, those types of techniques they use. Okay, so in here, the main thing I want to avoid is going over that, this quote too much, or not quote, but word stamp too much. So, and I think I want to try to keep this little movement here going, so I'm going to try to hit it from this angle. And then if it gets a little bit of a kind of a texturized, kind of directional splatter going, then so be it, all the better. You don't need to mask over that, word snap too much. I might get a little bit in there, but I don't want a lot. I just want a touch of it, because you don't want to look like something's been, you've dotted an R or something like that. Okay, so you just have to, I don't know, just eyeball it, whatever you think is the most ideal kind of application of that, in terms of quantity of splatter, you know, what's right with a splatter. Okay, so see very little around that word stamp. Smooths down here like that. Look how much fun that is, though, isn't it? It's almost like they're kicking up some snow, running across that terrain like that. So, yeah, but anyways, I don't know. Some of these might be interesting if you stamped them in white. I don't know. We'll test that out at some point in time. But doesn't that make for a nice kind of Christmassy type of winter card? And again, see that cabin right there, you just don't color the reflections. And that looks perfectly fine, in terms of a flat surface down here, frozen lake or whatever. Or just, it could be the meadow's been, just snowed over or whatnot. Okay, so anyways, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the scene. I certainly had a lot of fun doing it. And again, I don't know. I think it looks kind of like there's certain, types of aspects of it that's rather painterly, which I really like in terms of the surface quality of it. Things in here, there's not, it's patchy and kind of blobby, and in terms of my white application, but doesn't look more kind of textural in there rather than to have it completely, flat. Flat would look okay too, maybe, I don't know. But it certainly doesn't need to be. And my clouds up there, I mean, it's not this perfect application of, white ink that it's perfectly smooth. I think it looks better to have it a little bit varied like that, than when you put these other textures over it or this quote stamp. You know what I mean? It all tends to kind of play off each other. You have sharp and crisp and, lighter, darker, textured, softer. All those types of things are kind of playing into the look here. So, all right. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks as always for tuning into the channel.